Thought we were able to put some things together tonight and play some complementary basketball offensively and defensively for more stretches, which is something we talked about heading into this game. I thought our the way we practiced carried over at a higher level than what we've shown for significant parts of this kind of early season. So that's important for us. You want to keep growing and getting better early, and I felt like the last few days, including tonight, we were able to do that. It's back at #1 slot.
What did you learn about your team tonight?
Well, I think it goes right back to kind of what I opened with. We have to continue to take what we do in practice and play that way in games. And at times it's been really good offense, and then other times it's been really good defense, but we haven't played at a high level on both ends, for significant stretches of multiple games yet. I thought we did that tonight. But we played at a high level on both sides of the ball for majority of the game, and that was good. I think we also talked about needing to be able to develop some of our depth and get some of those guys experience, and I think that we were able to do that tonight as well. So those two things were real positives for us tonight.
That depth, working on that. I mean, you had, I think, 11 guys score, and then you did get more production from a couple different guys. How do you see that paying dividends as you go forward here with one more home game before you go to Pitt?
I think you got to be prepared going into a game, and listen, our next opponent is a good one, so we got to make sure that we're clicking on all cylinders heading into early next week. I think for us, whether it's foul trouble or God forbid injury or whatever, sickness, certainly we saw it all last year. We have to be, it's next man up. You got to be ready for those situations that present themselves, and certainly not exclusive to us. Most everybody deals with some element of that throughout the course of the year. So that's why it's important, Adam, I think, is for guys to get that experience so they're ready. And it could happen in a segment of a game where we need more. And I think Omari has been a really bright spot for us. He continues as the season goes on to show more and more consistency with what he's capable of. So getting a double-double tonight was great, and just under 19 minutes. So yeah, I think that's why is we got to continue to grow and develop that.
You said the last few days you made that reference to that at the beginning, and then putting things together tonight. What effect did that Sunday game have on you guys coming into this week, do you think?
I think this group's done a great job of focusing on the task at hand, and we were able to evaluate our performance on Sunday. Certainly proud of some things we did, and we did some really good things, but there were some other areas that we can control where we didn't play at a high enough level. So I thought our team handled Sunday's win with great maturity. When we stepped on the floor the next time for practice, because it was laser focused to get better, and that's what we're about right now. Like, we have to continue each and every day to practice well and get better. It's exciting when we're playing at a high level on both sides of the ball, and that's what was great about tonight. That's what we've talked about really for some time, but really focused on the last couple practices, and I thought our guys executed it well.
So I guess the next sign of maturity would be to come out after a game like this and have that laser focus, right? And is that, obviously that's what you want the next practice, is to not let a game like this make us feel too good about ourselves, right? And how do you handle that with your team?
We stick to the principles we're about. There's core values of who we are as a program and what we're about on the court, and if we stick to those, there's no letdown. We certainly aren't going to play perfect, or maybe not even play great all the time, right? But it's about the task at hand, and it's about growing, and it's about getting better, and you stay in the moment by sticking to the principles and the values that we're about, and the way we practice every single day. So I'm not worried about that, honestly, with this group. They've been great, and this group has yet to have just a full-blown bad practice. We've had some bad segments of practice, but they adjust they, you know, come together and find a way to make it right, and that's what we've been able to do so far.
Jake, I don't see angry too much on the court. That last possession of the first half where they hit their free throws, you got a timeout, you guys put up a three with like 5 seconds left, let them move on and do another three. What did you ideally want in that possession, and you know, how did you want them to execute that last possession with the time that was available?
Yeah, we started too early, and that's what happens, you know, when you don't execute. And it's good. It's good to be in those moments. That's why, you know, I think for this game, it wasn't about coaching anything other than the possession at hand for me, because we gotta utilize moments like that to get better. And we didn't execute. We started the play, I think 2 or 3 seconds too early than what we talked about in the timeout, and they end up hitting a buzzer beater because we don't transition back and locate a guy who, you know, we talked about being a high level shooter and had, you know, one of the games hit 4 or 5 threes already this year. So that was why I was frustrated. You know, I think you guys know this. We have a saying in our program: "Be your best late," and part of that is finishing out the half. And we weren't, you know, in that segment, and it was, you know, I think just the last play obviously made it even worse.
And when you guys went up 73-33, you're up 40, Gabe Cupps is clapping and screaming as if like he's still locked in up 40. What's it been like coaching Gabe Cupps?
Yeah, it's great. You know, I think a lot of times when you find comfort as a coach in people who share a similar mentality as you, and he and I have a lot of similarities. We obviously, our upbringing, you know, I'm not saying our families are exactly the same, but we both played for our dad, our dad's, you know, had us in the gym at probably when we could walk, and we just lived the game and loved the game. And, you know, I love the passion that he plays. I've had to challenge him at times to bring that all the time, and, you know, be confident and comfortable in his own skin in doing that. And I think when he does it, it's been really impactful. He's had some huge defensive segments for us this year. And so, you know, as we continue to create our, you know, substitution patterns and create our, you know, more depth on this team, we got to value each and every possession we're out there. We talk about that a lot, and he embodied that tonight. I thought it was great. He played with great toughness, and something he's got to continue to do for us.
How is, or where on the transition from the 4 to the 3 do you see Devin right now? I know it's obviously early in the season, but kind of where do you see that process?
Yeah, well, I think we haven't fully seen. You got to remember, he's been in and out
Right.
for a couple weeks now, and you know, I like that he's shooting the ball with confidence. You know, I want him to continue to be aggressive. He's going to shoot it at a really good level this year for us. I thought his activity on the glass was big. That's part of him being, you know, at the quote unquote 3, I guess, is giving us an advantage on the glass. And so he did that great tonight. I thought he played for fouls a little bit in the paint where he could have just scored. So he's certainly comfortable in there. We know that. But I've been really happy with the transition. I think more than anything, there's just been a choppiness. It's been hard for him to get a flow, even in practice. And so certainly it was that way in games there for a couple. But yeah, been really happy with where he's been. I think defensively he's been really good as well. So it's been good.
John talked about not taking any team for granted. Obviously, big favorites, and this is a team who's had some struggles. Why is that message conveyed so well in your program?
Well, you know, I think first off, it's you got to respect the game, and you know, we've all been around the game long enough to know that anything can happen on any given night in college basketball. Is part of what makes it, in my opinion, the best sport ever. But again, we just lean on, you know, kind of our principles and our core values to guide us. And you know, it doesn't matter who we play, and certainly, you know, we saw on film this team play well in stretches and beat a team that, you know, we already played. So it wasn't hard to see what they were capable of on film. And I think, listen, early in the season, you know, everybody's kind of trying to establish, you know, who they are, what their strengths are, and they're doing it too. And they're going to figure some things out because they got some good pieces. They're athletic, they're fast, they rebound well, and you know, so it wasn't hard to look and find enough good tape to say, man, this team is capable of being really good on any given night.
Jake, Omari had his first career double-double tonight. Just describe the progress he's made over 5 games and what's the ceiling for him?
Yeah, it's hard to say what the ceiling is, really. Yeah, I think we're all wondering that a little bit. I know it's really, really high, and you guys don't get to see how he approaches practice every day. He's already becoming like just an all-time favorite guy to coach because he plays with unbelievable joy, and it's not a joy that lacks competitive spirit or toughness and physicality, but he loves the game. He comes to work with a smile, but plays with toughness too. It's just I like that. It's kind of how I am, So he and I have I think just created a really good bond, and he's playing with confidence. I think we're seeing his confidence grow and grow, and with his confidence growing, his production is growing too.
So obviously you want to see the first teamers reach mid-season form as soon as possible, but this is also a game as good as any for the second teamers to see as many live bullets as possible. How do you manage the playing time in this game in terms of when to prioritize the ones versus the twos and who needs what?
Yeah, well, we felt like, regardless of how the flow of the first half was going to go, we needed to tap into our bench a little bit earlier this game. That was by design, and it really, whether the game was close or not, we were committed to utilizing our bench earlier in the game. So that was part of it. And then when we had an opportunity to give them some consistent minutes, I think it's really good because we're still evaluating too, right? It's going to be really hard to play an 11-man rotation. So we're evaluating, kind of who we can trust out there and what they can provide, what their best are. We see it in practice, obviously, and we can anticipate what that looks like in a game. But you got to get some like you say, you got to get some kind of live minutes, and guys need to be able to play through some stuff. And thankfully, we were able to do that, tonight. And guys the roles aren't defined by tonight. They got to continue to build and grow, and we'll continue to evaluate that.
And there was one sequence I was curious about. Midway through the second half, you platoon swapped the entire first team back into the game with a 39-point lead. I was just curious if there was anything else to it besides, because every single starter came back in, and I was just a little bit curious about that.
Yeah, I felt, I don't remember exactly how much time was on the clock, but I wanted to get
About
those.
10 minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to get those guys some more run and get them in and, get them back out with, a decent amount of time left in the game to get those guys. And quite honestly, we talked a lot about as a team, our offensive pace needed to be better. And I know part of our lack of offensive pace the last 2 games was we got fatigued. And I think that group out there got a little fatigued, and we stopped moving the ball. We stopped cutting as hard as I like. And so that was part of it too. But I wanted to get those guys running and get our guys used to playing with that pace. And when they get tired, I told them, if you're not cutting hard, you just tell them you're tired. I got to get someone else in there who will. And that was a big reason, those two reasons for that platoon sub. I don't know, I'm not like a huge platoon sub guy, but
Well, that's what I was curious
that was
about.
why we did it there, yeah.
No, going back to Omari, those 10 rebounds, how much of that is just better effort from a freshman? Or how much of it is a better understanding of what it means to be a good rebounder? Is it just how the ball came off the rim today? I guess, what did you see today that was different than what he's shown you in the first?
I think, yes, both those things are true, and most importantly, there's an aggressiveness to how he played. And listen, he's got some God-given gifts too that help him be a great rebounder. But I think, yeah, getting more comfortable, understanding the game, understanding what the game requires, and defensive principles, and all of those things apply. But in his mentality as well. But he's got great size, physicality, strength, and athleticism, and that combination is, I think, why, like I said earlier, it's why we're so excited about the player he's growing into and the player he can become.
Nick? Oh, Jake, two questions on the centers here. We'll start with first off. Watch the bench, watch you. When he finally he got the 3 to fall. What does it mean for his confidence and just you always say trust him, but the trust in what you're trusting him in the whole offense there?
Yeah, I want to talk to him, but I thought it was a little dramatic because I've seen him make a ton of threes, and it was just, he and I got in the gym the last couple days, and it was only a matter of time he was going to knock him, but I felt like he made it a little bit bigger deal than he had to. you know, I don't know what he was doing there, a couple of those, but yeah, I'm happy for him. I mean, I'm not worried at all about his shooting. He's got to continue to shoot them, and people are welcome to dare him. Like, he's going to make someone pay in a big way here real soon. That's what I believe.
And then Avon, he comes in, like, not even really the statistics, but just you guys putting him in there decently early in the first half, his understanding, the energy he brought, like, what do you think of his performance and how he kind of played today?
Yeah, I thought Avon was good, and he's what we've asked him to do is challenging because he's getting short spurts. You know, it's hard to get into a flow like that. But what we've asked him is play extremely hard, and we'll get you a breather after that, and just kind of exhaust everything for that segment. And I think he's getting better at that. You know, he's playing hard. He's got great his understanding for how to stay between the ball and the rim and just be really big and force teams to miss. You know, he's not going to block a bunch of shots, but he forces a lot of misses. And so as he's continued to improve in that and continue to improve in recognizing coverages, you know, I think he's helping our defense. So, and we know obviously with what's ahead, we're going to need him to be a good player for us, and he can be.
Yeah, and then Greg.
You touched on this a little, but in a blowout win like this, you think the biggest benefit is the different rotations you're able to use out there?
Yeah, and I think, listen, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't coaching a score. I was coaching, you know, possession by possession, because we got a lot to work on and get better at. So we talked about, we broke the game up into segments. A lot of coaches have done this. You know, I learned this from Thad Matta when I worked for him, where he famously called them wars, and I think that's great. He's not the only person. He might have learned that from somebody too, but I'm going to give him the credit. So, you know, we talk about winning those 4-minute segments, and that's what our focus was today. So whether, I don't even know what we were up, quite honestly, in some of them, because I was just consumed with playing at a high level on both sides of the ball. And I thought for the most part we did. We certainly had some segments where we, you know, had some letdowns, both defensively and offensively, but for the duration of the game, we played at a high level on both sides.
Were there any combinations out there that you really liked today that you might not have seen before tonight?
I got to go back and evaluate that. I think it's hard. You know, I'm a believer in lineup analytics and things like that, but the sample size is too small right now. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. I think you need certain number of minutes and possessions to really get a true feel, and then quality of opponent plays a role, you know, as your season progresses. So we'll monitor that. I'll have to go back and watch the film to see if anything specifically stood out, but I do think, you know, we want to certainly be mindful of some of the combinations we have to help everybody and set everybody up for success, but it's just a little too early to evaluate that kind of one way or another.
For Kristoff, it was a career high in assists today. You've talked about him before, his ability to find the open man, but when you got a 7-footer who can, get the ball top of the key, put the ball on the floor, finish strong at the rim, find the open, do all those things, what does that do for this offense?
You know, it's not just the assist numbers, but his low turnover numbers, you know, in assist to turnover ratio is really impressive. We've tried to, you know, I think when you watch us play offensively, we can play through a lot of different guys. And I think that makes us really hard to guard, especially when we're playing with the pace, even really the pace in the half court that we played with for much of the game tonight. His basketball IQ, again, is really, really high, complemented with his size and skill. It makes him very unique. It allows you to be creative offensively, and it allows, you know, listen, like when Bruce can have guys create something for him, he can get some easy looks. That's great. Like he got some easy looks tonight because other guys were able to create for him. And, you know, typically in the past, it was kind of him and Junie who were primary playmakers. Now you add Tilly, and I think as Devin continues to grow his game, you know, and you add playmaking for others to what he's been able to show in practice and at times in the game. So having multiple guys like that is really helpful. It just makes us hard to guard.
You said over the offseason you went out into the transfer portal looking for guys who kind of fit what you were trying to do with this offense. Obviously, Kristoff is one of those guys, but how much of that playmaking ability was something that you needed to work on over the offseason with him?
Yeah, well, I think what we saw is on film is a lot of potential, And then, you know, in talking to him, and listen, spring recruiting it's fascinating, quite honestly. I mean, there's just, so his recruitment, we were able to build a connection, and, you know, talking to him, you felt like you were talking to somebody who had been around the game for a long time, who had some confidence in himself, but who also felt like there was another level he could get to. And that combination with just also the quality of person he is, those things combined with his size and skill that you could see on film gave us the confidence to say, hey, we can take this to another level. And so far, it's been really good, you know. And listen, he's worked really hard to be able to play at the level he's playing at too. Like, make no mistake, he has come in here and worked extremely hard. He's shooting extra every day. He's watching film. He's eating right. I mean, there's a lot. We talk a lot about the margins, and we rely on some of our older guys to help set the tone with that, and he's been one of them.
Sweet. Coach, thank you.